Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer Schaus coming to you live from Washington, D.C., and thanks for joining us in our Webinar Wednesday series. This is the first Webinar Wednesday in our 2019 series. All of our webinars are complimentary and they are recorded. You can find those either on our YouTube channel or on our website. And today's webinars will be available in about 48 hours after recording. Because we try to keep these short, we don't take questions at the end. So if you do have questions, you can email us directly or give us a call on the phone number. All the contact information will be on the last slide. A little bit about us. We work with both product, service, and software companies that sell to the federal government. And some of our services are listed here, including GSA Schedule support, contract administration, and business development. Today's webinar is sponsored by AccuTrack Services. They're a small woman-owned business, 8A certified, and providing solutions including DCAA audit readiness, budget and forecasting, cost allocation, bookkeeping and reporting, time tracking and payroll, accounting policies, and systems. More information can be found on their website at accutrack.biz. And thanks again to AccuTrack for their sponsorship. Brief background here about myself, including education and a number of years in government contracting. So today's topic is negotiating with GSA to secure an award. So this is assuming that you have put together a proposal, it has been submitted to GSA to get onto the schedule, and they've come back with questions, you've satisfied all of their questions, and now they are moving into negotiating with you on your pricing. So let's first talk about the GSA schedule, what it is and what it isn't before we dig into the pricing and negotiations. So it's a contract vehicle, certainly not required. It's one of many, many ways that the government purchases, typically used about 10 to 15% of the time in federal purchases. If you do have a schedule, it's a 5-year contract with 3 5-year renewable periods. So in essence, from start to finish, that is a 20-year contract. About 20,000 vendors on the schedule currently, and 63% have zero sales through their GSA schedule. They may have millions of dollars elsewhere, but more than half of the companies holding the schedule do not have any sales through it. It tells you one of two things: somebody sold them something they didn't need, or number two, they haven't done the market research to understand the preferred method of procurement by their customer. So again, make sure you do your homework up front to know that this is how your customer is going to purchase from you. GSA also imposes a $25,000 per year sales quota through your schedule. So you may have millions of dollars in contracts with agriculture, commerce, USTR, DOD, whoever it is, but if they're not purchasing from you through your schedule, then GSA doesn't care. They need to know that you've got $25K running through your schedule. The majority of what is focused on in the GSA schedule is your lowest price, meaning GSA will want to secure your lowest price as possible. And then once you're on the schedule, those prices are only a price ceiling, meaning a not to exceed rate. So if you're selling widgets for $70 or you've got a program manager at $70 per hour, that's your GSA rate. As you start bidding for work through your schedule, you'll probably start bidding at rates of $69, $68, $67, $66. That will then mean that you probably have much smaller profit margins. So smaller margins, you'll need heavy volume. So either you've got a very diversified portfolio, meaning you're also selling to strict commercial entities and not subcontractor agreements, or you've got heavy volume and you know you've got a pretty full pipeline of interested federal agencies that are going to purchase from you through the schedule to make up on the volume side. Some benefits of the schedule can be used by state, local, and quasi-government entities, and these are going to be certain state and local entities and certain GSA schedules. So, for example, Schedule 70 and Schedule 84 can both be utilized by state and local. Quasi-entities, the Red Cross, the World Bank, the IMF, the IFC, the IADB, and a host of others also have the ability to purchase through the GSA schedule. If you've got it, you should hopefully be marketing it well with the logo on the back of your business card, on your website, in your email auto signature, and on your capability statement and everywhere else. It shows that you're serious about selling to the government, that you've been vetted, and that your prices have been pre-negotiated, which then allows for the government to directly purchase from you. And it gives your customer options. So a lot of times potential buyer might say, well, how are we going to get to you? Well, if you don't have some other contract vehicle, the GSA schedule is pretty unique in that it can be used across all federal entities. Okay, so again, we were talking about negotiating with GSA to secure an award. Your proposal's been submitted to GSA via the e-offer system. You've answered their questions. You've passed the financial test. They've sent you that to SF 527. Your bank has provided the reference. You've passed muster on all of the documents. Everything's good to go. And now they send you an email and say, hey, we want to do price negotiations. Here's a couple dates and times, what works for you guys. Now, these negotiations can sometimes either be via phone or over email. And one important piece here to note is don't feel obligated either over email or on the phone with them to bow down and give them a final answer. A lot of times you can come back and say, hey, we need an hour or two or half a day or whatever it is to run some numbers to make sure that what you guys are throwing out at us is going to work. So keep that in mind. Don't feel that just because GSA suggests, hey, we can't take your $70 an hour rate, you need to be at 65. Don't just buckle and say yes, because that 65 is truly not going to be a $65 rate for you. It's going to end up being lower because, again, your GSA rates are a price ceiling. And we'll talk about some of the strategies here at the end. But some three main things that they're going to ask for on the call or over the email are going to be individual discounts, meaning on each and every one of your products or each and every one of your labor categories or the software that you're selling. So line by line, your product manager level 1, your program manager level 2, your systems engineer level 2. Each of those hourly rates they will look at, your widget, your license for your software. The second thing they look at is volume or quantity discounts, meaning, hey, if an agency is purchasing through the schedule and they want your services, if they spend at least $250,000, they want a 1.5% discount. And then they will also ask for prompt payment discounts, meaning, hey, if we pay within that 10, can we get a 2% discount or whatever it is. Know what your threshold is on each, and obviously on item number 1, the individual discounts, you will have proposed discounts in your price proposal. You can be a little bit conservative there because you're not going to get rejected for not giving enough discount because they're basically just going to negotiate with you. So you can be conservative. That way it gives you some wiggle room on the negotiations. If they just accept your proposal, then you probably, without any negotiations, then you gave them way, way too much. So again, err on the side of being conservative. The volume or quantity discounts, you can go in with proposing absolutely nothing, but just know that on the negotiations, they are going to ask for something. So maybe you do want to propose something there, and again, be conservative. Give yourself some wiggle room for the negotiations, that if you need to say no, maybe on the individual discounts, then you can give them something else on volume or prompt payment. So know, again, just the threshold on each of those sections that GSA is going to be pushing for. And on the individual discounts, you can do your own market research. For the products, you'll look at the GSA Advantage website to look at how similar products are being priced, to know kind of where you should fall. And same thing on the labor categories. Go to the calc.gsa.gov site to know where each of the labor categories are priced. So if you've got a program manager level 1, 5 years of experience and a bachelor's degree, and you think your GSA rate should be $120 an hour, but the average GSA rate that you found on the calc.gsa.gov website is $100 an hour, GSA is going to try to push you down to $100. So before you even decide to pursue the schedule, you should do that market research to make sure that you're going to be able to live with those numbers. So some strategies to think about, as I mentioned, do not give away everything up front. Give yourself some negotiating power and some wiggle room. There's only so much that they can do, but as far as, accepting your offer or not, they will counter on the negotiations. Sometimes they'll ask for a discount. Sometimes they'll just ask for a number. So, for example, let's say you've got a $70 an hour program manager level 1. Sometimes they'll say, hey, we want a 10% discount off of that, or they may just give you the actual number that they're looking for. This number needs to be $63 per hour. Sometimes they may just ask for a flat discount across all of your labor categories, or across all of your products. Hey, we want an additional 2% off of everything. Or sometimes they will go through line by line and say, this rate we need an additional 10%, this rate we need 3%, in addition to what you're giving us. And you can counter the counter, but make sure you have an argument with that. Use the calc site, use the GSA Advantage site, and say, hey, we're comparing apples to apples here. The rates for program managers with the same level of experience is this, and you're asking us to go, way lower. Or maybe you do go way lower, you meet somewhere in the middle, and then you give up something on one of the other 3 sections. You say, hey, instead of $63, we'll give you $65. And in addition to the $65, then maybe we'll give you a prompt payment discount. You can also sometimes play the small business sympathy card and say, hey, listen, we're just starting out. We can't really go down on the individual rates, but we will give you something maybe on volume or quantity or prompt payment. But then at the end of 12 months, we'll review, and if we can lower any rates based on the amount of work that we got, then we will. We'll add additional discounts. But really what you're probably going to do at the end of 12 months anyway is hopefully increase your rates. But make it easy for GSA if you do that upfront homework where you really know kind of the rates that they're going to come back and ask for, because you can find that information on the calc site, which is pretty much what they're using, as well as the Advantage site. Then you know what they're going to ask for. So take a look at some of your competitors. Look at what their volume discounts are. Look at what their prompt payment discounts are. And again, make sure that those are things that you can live with. And again, when you're on the phone with them, everybody gets very excited to get onto the schedule. As soon as GSA makes a proposition to lower your rates to something, or they want additional discounts on other components, payments. A lot of times companies will just be so excited. They say, yeah, okay, that's great, let's do it. Don't feel like you have to. You have the ability to counter. You have the ability to say, hey, we need to run some numbers internally. And so use that. Or maybe a labor category that they didn't ask for a discount on. Maybe you say, hey, we can't give you the 10% or 3% that you want on the program manager, but we can give it to you on the project manager. So again, know what you can and can't. Go into the negotiations prepared. And so use these public resources. These are some of the sites that I mentioned. The calc.gsa.gov gives you the labor category rates and averages. You'll have company names and their schedule number. You can link to their price list as well, their full price list. You'll get product prices there on the GSA Advantage site, as well as software. And again, we strongly suggest doing this before you even decide to pursue the schedule, because you really don't want to go down this path and get to negotiations only to find that, hey, your rates are going to be so low, it's going to put you out of business, and the type of quality of talent that you'll be able to attract at these lower rates is then going to get you maybe onto the contract, but it won't keep you on, because that quality of a project manager level 2 that should have a bachelor's at 10 years of experience, and you find a person that's willing to work for $35 an hour, well, the type of work that person is probably doing is not going to be consistent with expectations. So again, make sure that you really know what you're getting into with GSA schedule before you go down the path. And that was an exaggerated example, obviously. Okay, so if anybody needs help with GSA schedules, getting on, renewing, audits, modifications, price negotiations, certainly contact us. Phone number, email, and website is listed here in front of you. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you'll join us again next week on Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern.